It is 100%. I like that. You'll see where that's going here in a minute. Let's start off with a yarn, a story, right? Sorry, here we go. So, guy, very wealthy dude, and he's dying. He's dying. You know how that works out, right? When guys die, they kind of get a little bit overzealous with the whole thing. And so he has the pastor come by, which is kind of weird because he's not really a church guy. And the pastor comes by and he talks to him, talks about the healing powers of God and what can happen in his life. And he goes through this whole thing, but he's dying. And he says to the pastor, listen, I'm dying. This is it. This is the end. But I'll tell you what, pastor, as bad as I feel, as I can feel death creeping up on me, this wouldn't be happening if I didn't say things were great with the sound.
Right.
But since I said things were great, this is going to have issues. Since I'm dying, he says, if the Lord can heal me, I'll give the church $1 million. And so that's great. And the pastor leaves eventually. And sure enough, a miraculous miracle happened. He recovered. And it acted as if nothing has ever happened. It was a perfect recovery. And a few months later, the pastor sees him on the street. He says, hey, we'll call him Jeffrey. Jeffrey, how you doing? How you feeling? Feeling better? Yeah. I don't want to bring up anything uncomfortable for you, the pastor says. But you said something back when you were sick. I'm not sure if you remember. He says, what did I say? He says, well, you said that if God healed you, you give the church $1 million. That's what you said. He says, whoa, I must have been sick, he says. That leads us right into what we're talking about here today. Something that should hit home with everybody. Say, hey, how did that get there? I didn't put it there. Michaela? Do we really mean what we say? Do we really mean what we say? Integrity. That's what we're talking about here today. Now, we're on the lectionary. And as I was studying the lectionary, it led me to that one word, integrity. And so, in my studies for the message, that led me to another verse, not necessarily from the lectionary. We are still going to use one verse out of lectionary, but it's Matthew 5:33 through 37. You know what? That's pretty good. We should say that one 5 times fast and see who gets through that one. Matthew 5:33 through 37. I should practice that to make myself speak slower for everybody. And it goes like this. Are you ready? It says, again you have heard that it was said to those of ancient times, you shall not swear falsely, but carry out the vows you have made to the Lord. But I say to you, do not swear at all, either by heaven for the throne of God. Now what he's saying here, this sets up what we're going to talk about a little bit later. Because you don't need to say, hey, I swear to God I'm telling the truth, things like that. Anytime you say a statement, that's it. It's your word. But carry out the vows you made to the Lord. Anytime you say something, it's a vow. You don't need to swear to God or by earth. Unnecessary. That's God's footstool. Or by Jerusalem. You don't need to swear to Jerusalem, for it's the city of the great king. And obviously that's there because this is a bit of an ancient type of writing going on here. Don't swear by your head. In other words, don't swear on your mother's grave. Kind of a thing. That's what he's saying there. Don't do that. What are you doing? You can't make one hair white or black. That's just not going to work for you. Right? Here's the verse. All you need to say is yes or no. Everything else beyond that comes from the evil one. Amen. So we'll get into let's get into this. Ready? All right. Let your yeses be yes. Let your no's be no. And anything beyond this comes from the evil one. Right? The evil one. Let's talk about the evil one because that everything in the Bible is compare and contrast. So the evil one. In John 8:44 says, you are from your father the devil. You are. That's obviously John's not talking to you. And you choose to do your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth because there is no truth in him. He is a liar. Look at that. He lies. When he lies, he speaks according to his own nature. For he is a liar and father of lies. His own nature. So that harkens back to what we talked about. If you say yes, or even if you say no, mean what you say. That is the nature of God. If you don't, it is of the evil one. And this is what he's talking about when he says this. His own nature. His native language. So we're going to do an illustration that I didn't agree with for a minute. So here is a dollar bill. It's supposed to be a $50 bill. But I don't have a $50 bill. And I was going to go get a $50 bill. Then I was thinking, I can't spend a $50 bill because nobody accepts $50 bills out there. So I figured what I'm going to do is rely on your imaginative powers to pretend this is a $50 bill. Now, imagine I'm holding a $50 bill. I got it? Question, with my $50 bill, how many of you would like to have my $50 bill? If you're being honest, instead of quiet, you'll say, I would want your $50 bill. That's right, probably do. But if I crumple it up, and I throw it on the ground, and I step on it, put some dirt on it, and then hold it up, and my $50 bill, who would want my $50 bill now? Well, all of you do, because it's still a $50 bill, regardless of what happens to it. I mean, if I rip it up a few times, it's still a $50 bill. You just got to send it in, as I recall. But I was told this illustration is an example of integrity. I said, no, I don't think so. I don't like that illustration because the raw definition of integrity is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles and moral uprightness. And that didn't fit with the illustration. But then I saw this other thing about integrity. It says, integrity, choosing courage over comfort, choosing what is right over what is fun or easy, and choosing, here's the trick, here's the one, here's the one, choosing to practice our values rather than professing them. In other words, if you, in this moralist, decrepit, vapid society we live in today, are practicing your Christian moral values, you'll be like this crumpled up $50 bill. It's a war zone out there. But it's still a $50 bill, and your integrity will be seen. You can't be bought. You can't be changed. You are exactly who you say you are. Your word is your bond. Your yeses are your yeses, and your no's are actually no's. You going to do this? No. Maybe we should ask him again. No, he said no. He said no. We should probably say yes more often than that, actually. A person of integrity is validated by their words and their deeds, is what it is. Right? Practice our values rather than simply professing them. Integrity is making my daily actions line up with my heart's values, and that makes sense. Where's your values? It could actually mean what that evil one says. That could be where your values lie, in which case your actions line up with those values. So the question is this: what are your values? You don't even have to answer that question. You could have already have done that answer recently. We all have lied in the past. We have. Period. We are called to be holy, therefore we should be holy. Are you doing better today than you were 10 years ago? I mean, are you? There's a chance you could be. There's a chance you could not be. That's really up for you to figure out. You have to be careful how you receive this question, because if you tell somebody you're going to do something and then you don't, how's your integrity? Oh, but Pastor, I've been unavoidably detained. I couldn't help it. I've heard it all before. I have, especially first sergeants. And anybody in the Army that has soldiers that are late for formation. I had one guy said that he woke up blind. He regained his sight at 12 o'clock. Please. More often than not, we like to make ourselves believe something's important when it's not. You get a phone call, hey sir, this is the finance department. I don't know what has happened here, but it looks like there's been some interesting developments here. I'm not sure how this has happened, but it looks like we owe you $1 million. However, due to government involvement and taxes and things like that, this is only going to last for about 30 minutes. If you can make it here in 30 minutes, I believe we can give you a cashier's check for $1 million. You're going to bend heaven and earth and the laws of physics to get there in 30 minutes, aren't you? Nothing else is more important than that $1 million. My son, he's got his very first ever time trials for the Olympics. $1 million, right? Which is probably why the Bible uses money as the root, as a root, an example of evil, and it leads to more evil. You'll get there. Now, on the other hand, Tom goes to church. There's no Toms in here, right? I don't think so. We're good. Tom goes to church. He's checking that block because he feels guilty. He wants to feel less guilty. He goes to church one time, a couple times a month, makes himself feel good. And a guy comes, "Hey, Tom, good to see you. How's the wife and kids?" Woo! I sure am glad you're here. Listen, Tom, next week during college football and the only day off you have all week long, we're having a church event and we really could use a couple of strong backs. We're really short. You think you could help us out, Tom? It'd be great if you would. We appreciate it. And that twinge of guilt goes on because everybody gets it. Okay, I guess. He said yes. Does he want to? No. Of course not. Well, not of course not, but a lot of us don't have that same kind of integrity going on. But he doesn't want to. And we may have lived this very thing before, said yes and really, really want to say yes. And so now stress immediately just invades his entire body. And things that used to be innocuous before now become kind of important. Oh, man. My wife's sister's third cousin from the fifth marriage neighbor that lives down the street 5 doors down has got a dog that needs walking. I'm the only one that can do it. I can't make it. This thing came up. I can't believe this came up, but I can't do it. I've got to do this other thing. I apologize. We'll break the laws of physics to get that $1 million, but any little thing in the world will keep us from doing something else we don't really want to do. Mark Twain once said that speaking honestly is better. It takes a lot of stress out of our lives. Isn't that the truth? Back in the day, I've gone through this. I can't say no to anything for some reason. Okay. But I want to. Stress immediately invades my body. It's horrible. I hate it. Proverbs 10:9. People with integrity walk safely, but those who follow crooked paths, they're going to be exposed. You'll be able to see it. It won't be as clear as a $50 bill. You won't know what kind of bill that is. In society without moral absolutes, anything goes. It's your truth, whatever you think is true. If you can choose what's right and wrong, how in the world are you going to figure out which path to take? This way looks good. Looks nice down there. It's a level path. I like that. You've ever heard of the term, the chickens coming home to roost? It's going to happen. Eventually, if that's the way you live. I'll give an example. A busload of politicians. They're on a trip. But the road has got a detour, and they have to go down this back road. Now, this country road, it's a little bit dicey with this great big bus, and the wind is blowing, and the bus driver's doing his best, but he hits a groove in the road and makes the bus slide right off the road, through a fence, in a tree. Politicians laying everywhere. And a farmer on his normal chores is doing his stuff, and he sees all these politicians. Oh man, it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. He gets out the backhoe and his shovel, and he buries all the politicians. He's a good guy. And then he goes on his business. Well, they didn't show up to their convention or whatever it is they're going to, so they dispatch a state police officer who backtracks. He finds the damage, the accident area, and everything else. In fact, the bus is still there. Finds out who owns the farm. Says, "Hey, what happened?" He says, "Oh man, they're all over. I buried them all." you know what? Your chickens are going to come home to roost if that's the life you're going to lead. There's 5 words that continue to crop up in the Bible all the time. Honesty, right? Purity, truth, upright, and complete. And every one of these words, not every time, but depending on the context, every one of these words has the same basic Greek foundational word behind it. Do you know what that word is? Huh? It's integrity. Not to berate a particular point. So what's integrity? Integrity is honesty, truth, purity, upright, and complete. So that's kind of like what integrity looks like. And the reason I know this is because I read the Bible. The Bible gives me all the answers I want. And this is how we get into our verse from the lectionary. It's in 2 Timothy. I like to say Timmy, as if Timmy's my buddy. 2:15 it says, be diligent to present yourself approved to God. That's integrity. You're either going to be diligent to present yourself properly, or you're going to hide a few things. A worker who does not need to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. 2 points to highlight beside that. First one is rightly dividing the word of truth. That literally means to cut a straight line. There's a particular guy, good golly, commentator, who likes to illustrate this point by saying whenever they used to build the buildings back in the day, you have to cut the rocks perfectly to fit into the building. Otherwise, the building won't have its structure sound. Rightly dividing the word of truth is what this says. Gotta make sure I'm not missing anything, because I feel like I'm missing something here. Integrity. That's it. We're going to skip that. We already know what integrity is. The second one, and I'm going to take this one out of the NIV, is still in 2:15, is a worker who does not need to be ashamed, who correctly handles the word of truth. A worker. That's important. That's important. A worker. Someone actually puts forth the effort. It says, reading God's word is more than reading God's word and moving on. It takes contemplation. It takes thought. It takes effort. You have to read the word. Don't read into it. Read from it. And it's interesting, the word of God, when you put on the armor of God, the Bible is the word of God is the only offensive weapon. It's a sword. And you can't pick up a sword and just start wielding all over the place. You'll cut yourself. You hurt yourself. And you certainly won't do anything to anybody else. It takes practice, like a worker. It takes effort, like a worker. Someone who takes the effort, the time, they don't need to be ashamed. They can correctly handle and wield the Word of God properly. My wife likes to say that if you read the Word of God, you'll be prepared. She likes to, you've heard this acronym before, and I put this up for her, but then I remember she's not going to be here today. Basic instructions before leaving Earth. So she's like, you've heard that before, right? Yeah, that's not. It means that I become a doer of the Word. We don't have to hide our intentions. There's a story, I don't think this is true, but I've heard this story before. These 2 brothers, pretty wealthy, they're in business together. And because they have a lot of money, they're swindlers, and they're hoarders, and they're kind of liars and thieves, and position is more important than anything else. And they belong to a local church, where, again, they use money for position in the church as well. The pastor used to turn a blind eye to it because, hey, money is money. Which, again, reminds me that money is a root of evil. It's a good example. It always seems to be everywhere when we see sin. But the old preacher was an old preacher, and he had to retire, and this was the time he retired. New guy came aboard. And he was a man who was upstanding. He preached the gospel with zeal, courage, lived an exemplary life, and it was really resonating with the congregation. It began to grow. It began to grow so much that it appears that you're going to have to expand the church somehow. That requires some money, which presents us with an issue. How are we going to get this money? I'm wondering. Right about that time, one of the brothers died, however. And the new preacher was asked to do the funeral. The day before the funeral, one brother comes and gives him a check. An envelope with a check in it. It says, inside this envelope is a check that will cover all the expenses you need to expand the church. I just want you to do one thing. I want you to tell everybody at the funeral tomorrow that my brother was a saint. Can you do that? The preacher says, I can do that. Huh. So he takes the check, goes to the bank, deposits it into the church's bank account, and then he stands up in front of everybody for the funeral the next day, right? And he says, this man in the coffin here was an ungodly sinner and wicked to the core. He was unfaithful to his wife, abusive to his children, and ruthless in business, and a hypocrite, a liar, a no-good, dirty scoundrel. But compared to his brother, he was a saint. Chickens will come home to roost. However, is that integrity? Well, the brothers didn't show integrity, but I don't know if the preacher really showed integrity either, because he kind of misled him a little bit, don't you think? I think so. I like the story, though, so it worked out well. If we do what God says and apply it to what we learn, we live our lives with people of integrity. I'm going to read 2 Timothy 15, and one more time, this time from the RAZV version. Right? Did you catch that one? It actually says it right there, RAZV, right there, version of the Bible. Hey, dude, be a Christian who reads, thinks on, and digests the Word of God. Don't read into, read from. Right? The person who does this does not need to be ashamed in front of God and within the Christian community. A person such as this is able to handle the Word of God. Otherwise, no. It's as simple as that. If we do not apply the Scriptures to our lives, we become shallow and empty. Just like those two brothers. Shallow and empty. Trying to use worldly goods and services to hide something they clearly were ashamed of. The moment we quit being ashamed of something in our past, we probably are making some steps forward, I imagine. Man, you were a sinful person. Yeah, I was. Well, I tell you what, I don't know how I was able to live with myself, but I can now. Yeah, but this is what you did. You're not going to make me feel guilty, dude. I've been redeemed. I've been justified. I've been forgiven. That is in the past. And now my yeses mean yes. My no's mean no. Because quite frankly, everything else that comes from that is from the evil one. C.S. Lewis, famous guy. Everybody knows him. A lot of biographies are done on him. This one guy was doing a biography, and he was interviewing people. And he come across one of C.S. Lewis's friends. And an interesting story came out of this. He says he remembers C.S. Lewis was taking care of this single mother. She was belligerent, did not really want help whatsoever, and she was mean. But C.S. Lewis kept on helping her. Why? Turns out he was in World War I with a buddy. To be honest, if you're in any kind of battle situation, everybody is your buddy. Anyways, he was very worried about his wife and his daughter. And he made C.S. Lewis a promise. He said, listen, if I die, will you make sure my wife and daughter are taken care of? Will you do that? C.S. Lewis says, I promise. And sure enough, as the war continued to rage on, he died. And Mr. Lewis went ahead and kept his word to take care of that young wife and daughter. Yet, no matter how helpful he tried to be, this woman was ungrateful, rude, arrogant, and domineering. Here's that moment. Through it all, he kept forgiving her. He refused to let her actions become the excuse to go back on a promise. That should hit home with every single one of us, because that's an excuse we like to have. It's not my fault. They're so ungrateful. They don't deserve my attention. I don't have to keep that promise. Look at this person. They have no idea how nice I'm being, apparently. I wonder what it's like to have no conscience. It's not our fault. Do we live up to what we say? And I'm saying even if you're misleading as being funny, and I'll give you another very real example. I used to take my clothes in the Army to a dry cleaner. When I was in the Navy, I did it all myself. And I was very young. And when I got to the Army, I was no longer young. I don't want to do it myself. Went to the cleaners. Everybody did that. And my time management was a little off. I needed something done pretty fast. So I go to the cleaners. It says 1 hour cleaners right on the window. I go in and say, I need this clean. Can you get it done for me? He says, yes. Sir. When would you like it back? I said, I'll be back in an hour. So, no, we can't. 3 days, maybe. Maybe 2 if we put a rush on it. It'll cost you extra. What do you mean 3 days? It says 1 hour cleaners. Well, that's just the name of our store. Well, what? That was the name of the store. Somebody should have told me that, because I'm certain everybody knew it. But if you say, hey, you should go to the 1 hour cleaners. Yeah, that's where I'll go. Please don't go 1 hour cleaners. We call ourselves Christians, right? That's the name on the store. It says Christ right in the name. Christ. Living Christ-like. Philippians 1:20. It is my eager expectation as a Christian and hope that I will not be put to shame in any way, but that my speaking, and I would like to say in my actions, with all boldness, Christ will be exalted now as always in my body, whether in life or death. That should be our credo when it comes to integrity as a Christ-like group of people that we are. Everybody else is doing it. Now, if they jump off the bridge, you're going to jump off the bridge? Here you go. We said that to our kids, right? But Johnny's doing it. It's one of those porous rationalizations that we use to justify our actions, which is interesting. It's ironic. We're justified by the blood of Christ. Well, we'll say, hey, everybody else is doing it to justify a very worldly action. To be a person of integrity means that you are willing to go against the crowd because the crowd is wrong. One more story. I think it's one more story. I love weird things. Therefore, I like Dr. Seuss. And this is Horton's in several books. In this book, it's called Horton Hatches the Egg. Now, this is a book that's not read as often. They should make a movie of this one rather than Horton Hears a Who. But this is a fun story. I like this one. And Dr. Seuss has got some great lessons to be learned. I don't know if he's a Christian. I should have looked that up. In this episode, however, Horton's moving along, and there's a bird sitting on an egg. She does not want to sit on this egg. Her name is Lazy Miss Maisie. Isn't that? I love these names. And she is miserable. She's got to get somebody. She won't get off the egg. At least that's good. I need somebody to say, "Oh, I know. How about a 50-ton elephant? Won't crush my eggs." But it's a fun story. Horton, he's pretty gullible. Maybe I can get him to do it. And he comes along. He's having a good time because Horton has a good time. He says, "Hey, can you sit on my eggs for me? I'll be right back." So he says, "Yeah, I'll do. I promise. I won't get off on until you come back." And then days go by, and weeks go by, the weather's horrible, he's miserable, and he's being teased by everybody else in the jungle or forest or wherever. Come off there. She's never coming back, Horton. I can't do it. You know why? He says the same thing every time. He says this: "I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. An elephant's faithful 100%. And there you get back to the whole point of the message. I think that's a fabulous lesson for kids to learn. Your yeses mean yes, and your no's mean no. In Matthew 5, whenever we make a promise, we do so with good intentions. Anything else is bad intentions. There's no middle of the road. There's no good lies to be told. There's lies and there's truth. Maybe your good intentions for good of self, right? Let your yeses be yes, let your noes be no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. In Proverbs 12:17, whoever speaks the truth gives honest evidence, but false witness speaks deceitfully. I did have another story. I'm going to skip it. We like to tell lies. We like to tell fuzzy lies. We like to pretend that if we alter the truth a little bit, then it doesn't get, I didn't really mean it anyways. The Pharisees had this whole rule on promises. If you promised to Jerusalem, you could not break that promise. Promise to God, you couldn't break that promise. But if you promised towards Jerusalem, it's a little fuzzy. You don't have to keep that promise. And with that in mind, with that in the little rule books that only the Pharisees had, people could also be a little bit shifty. It's gone through ages. I crossed my heart and hope to die, stick a needle in my eye. Oh, wait a minute. My fingers were crossed. And everybody knows on the international level, if I've got my fingers crossed, it doesn't count. And my integrity is still intact, right? But please. We can do terrible damage to our witness and the cause of Christ if we are not people of our word. We're Christians. The world is looking for authenticity whenever they can find it. Our own integrity and the integrity of church demands absolutely nothing less. There's a multiple reasons why society doesn't like Christians to begin with. We certainly don't need to lump on that with a lack of integrity. I pointed out that Christians got the word Christ in it, and we should be Christ-like. He is the ultimate promise giver. For centuries in the Old Testament, God said, I'm going to send somebody who's going to take the place for all your sins. Here comes Christ. He's there. He walks the walk. He talks the talk. And then, the moments before he gets on the cross, he is God. He is human. He has anxiety. And he's in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he is sweating blood. And he's on his knees, he's praying, says, God, Father, can you please pass this cup from me to somebody else? I am troubled. Your word is your word. You're going to have to go through this. It is your will. And he does. He allows himself to be arrested. He allows himself to be whipped and tortured and with those little spiky things on his head. Carried the torturous cross, and what couldn't do it had to get help. Was nails through his wrists or hands, hung there till death. Because he made a promise, said he would. And we are to live Christ-like. Which means probably the very first thing we should be doing is our yeses be yeses and our noes be noes. Period. Integrity. I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. A Christian, by the way, is faithful 100%. I like my take on that one. It is my eager expectation and hope that I will not be put to shame in any way, but that by speaking and actions with all boldness, Christ will be exalted now, as always, in my bodies, whether by life and by death. So that's what we need to think on this week. Are your yeses yeses? Are they? Whenever we say we'll do something, let's think about it for a second. Because I don't like to stress that it racks on my body if I didn't really mean it. I'll probably do it anyways. I didn't want it. We need to be straightforward. Integrity, it means everything. That means you'll be exactly the person you've always been, regardless of the condition you look like you're in. My yeses are yeses, my noes are noes. At least I hope they are. And I pray that yours are. Let's go to the Lord in prayer.